So, good day everyone. I am Benjamar C. Dawa and my co-author in this chapter is Jason John Lee and John Michael Tianzon. And we will be discussing chapter 18, which is about the corporate strategic failure. So, learning objectives. After studying this chapter, you should be able to understand the reasons for failure of Enron, analyze the reasons responsible for failure of Satyam Computer Services, and find the circumstances responsible for the failure of .coms. So introduction. So around 30,000 companies were established in the USA in 2003, but about 95% collapsed in the following year itself. In sheer statistical terms, there is perhaps more to be learned from the failures than from the few successes. What what can we learn from the failures? Can smart managers frequently overlook the dangers lurking around the corner? What are the possible pitfalls to avoid? Can we develop the concept of avoiding failures? How can organizations overcome strategic equilibrium? Therefore, one should understand not only the strategies of successful companies, but also the strategies of failed companies in order to prevent the possible failures of achievements of strategic goals. Now, we shall study the various cases of failed companies in order to draw lessons. So first, the Enron scandal. Enron was one of the fastest growing and supposedly innovative companies in the United States in the 1990s. However, the entire edifice was based on massive accounting and corporate fraud that eventually came to light and resulted in Enron declaring bankruptcy in December 2001, the biggest corporate bankruptcy in the world at that time. So, so the strategic failures of Enron. The first strategic failure is the mark-to-market accounting, a technique known as mark-to-market accounting to hide the trouble. Mark-to-market accounting allowed the companies to write unrealized future gains from some trading contracts into current income statement, thus giving the illusion of higher current profit. So the second strategic failure is the special purpose entity. Enron, like many other companies, use special purpose entities or SPS to access capital or hedge risk. By using SPS such as limited partnerships with outside parties, a company is permitted to increase leverage and ROA without having to report debt on its balance sheet. In total, by 2001, Enron had used hundreds of special purpose entities to hide its debt. So the third strategic failure was corporate governance and paper. Enron's high-risk accounting practices were not hidden from the board of directors. The board knew of the practices of accounting and creation of special purpose entities and took no action to prevent Enron from using them. So the fourth is the executive compensation. So employees had large expenses accounts and many executives were paid sometimes twice as much as competitors. In 1998, the top 200 highest paid employees earned $193 million from salaries, bonuses, and stocks. 2 years later, the figure jumped to $1.4 billion. So the last failure was failure of financial. So Enron's auditor firm's Arthur Anderson was also responsible, and as such it was accused of applying ruthless standards in their audits because of the conflict of interest over the significant consulting fees generated by Enron. The auditors' methods were questioned as either being completed for conflicted incentives or a lack of expertise to adequately evaluate the financial complexities Enron's employed. So lessons. The lessons from the strategic failures of Enron are man-made, particular CEOs, board of directors, and financial executives. These are manipulating accounts, creation of special purpose entities, the complex business model, and on-paper corporate governance measures. Thus, failure to honor corporate governance measures is the major reason for the failure of Enron. Having learned lessons from Enron, now we shall study failures of Satyam Computers. So last, the most important lessons in this is to buy high quality businesses with management teams that have both character and competence. So what is the board's role? So first, before the process starts, the board gives guidance including an overview of future environment along with specific opportunities and issues to be considered during the strategic planning process. The board will often have a broader vision, enabling the team to consider more choices before selecting the optimal course and direction. The second is after strategic development, the board provides a review function, reviews the strategy to make sure that it is internally consistent and that there are concrete implementation plans for key strategic functions. So the last is during the year, the board should monitor progress to ensure the strategy stays on track or changes when business conditions necessitate changes. So board involvement before the strategic planning process begins typically, board members work through the following steps. The first, industry scenario, which allows board members to give the strategic planning team an insight into the industry trends. So the second is winners profile. The board members may see characteristics of the winner that the team member may not see. Board members may have a better understanding of what company will look like at $100 million than team member of $50 million company looking to grow to $100 million. So the third is the opportunities to be evaluated. The broader makeup and the board may uncover additional opportunities to be researched. The last is the threats issues. The board members may have broader visions of what the risks are in the business. The board should be providing guidelines, suggestions rather than predicts. So that's all.
I'm here to report about strategic failures of Satyam Computer Service. The saga of Satyam Computers will go down as the worst episode of corporate governance failures in corporate India. The fraud, which is in excess of 7,000 crore, is unfortunately of a truly global scale. Post the aborted merger with Mitas, many had suspected that Ramalinga Radjo and family were evenly revenge at a personal level, stuck in property and those needed and blown up. Nobody, however, I think, suspected that Satyam itself was fraud. With no cash and no extent margin structure, radio status implies that the company is basically unprofitable at a net level amid no money over that last few years. Radio goes in the state that he was going to merge Mitas Infra and his private held property company to boil out Satyam and not use corporate strategic failures 505. Satyam cash to boil himself out as assumed by most who oppose the merger. Raju also writes that he pledged all his share to raise cash to pump into Satyam to keep the charge going. The ultimate defense against poor governance is the market itself. It was known that Satyam has had a suspiciously high and growing current account balance, as well as nearly Rs 400 pure interest accrued but not received on deposit. Why will a company keep Rs 2,000 pure in a current account? Why will bank not credit interest to deposit for multiple quarters? Why investor can legitimately claim that they were relying on the price where Waterhouse signed balance sheet and the lesson of the subprime typically in that investor cannot rely blindly on internal service providers. Investors should enterprise proper due diligence and not allocate capital to companies with poor disclosure or governance practices. Investor cannot allow large companies to have unknown auditors or rubber stamp boards and most force them to split the CEO slash chairman role in substance. If investor refuse to back pure management, you will see large valuation gaps for companies in same industry. If poor governance attract pure valuation, it will initiatives shareholder friendly behavior and marginalize companies with weak corporate governance. Investor may also be short poor governance to attract a permanent de-rating. What was the reason for the corporate failures of Satyam Prometheus? Among many reasons for the collapse was the former chairman and CEO of Satyam Prometheus Service, Ramalinga Rajus, stepping down from his role after his admission that he embezzled the company of Rs 7,140 crore. What were the failures of the corporate governance structures in Satyam? There were four major issues that led to Satyam disgraceful collapse, including the independent directors and the company's board committee, drove banks and auditing, problem with disclosure and transparency, and the failure in CEO and CFO role. What was the problem with Satyam? The Satyam Computer Survey scandal was India's largest corporate fraud. The founder and director of India-based outsourcing company Satyam Computer Service falsified the account, inflated the share price, and stole large sums from the company. Much of this was invested properly. What do you think Satyam promoters owners acted unethically? Satyam's chairman Ramalinga Rajouri was conducting the business is a classical example of unethical practice in the industry. He was solidly driven by the greed of money and accrued lands. He wanted to compete with the top 3 IT companies of India, Infosys, TCS, and WIPRO. Satyam will always be remembered for perhaps the largest commercial scam in Gulf, Satyam Communities LBS Limited. Satyam was founded by B. Ramalinga Rajo. What are the factors that lead to the fall of Satyam Communities? The fall of Satyam Communities, among many reasons for the collapse, was former chairman and CEO of Satyam Communities Service, Ramalinga Rajo, stepping down from his role after his admission that he immobilized the company for its 7,940 crore. That's all, thank you.
So good afternoon, everyone. So failures of .com. So a .com company, or simply a .com, does its business on the internet. Many .com were formed to take advantage of the surplus or venture capital funding. Some were launched with very thin business plans. The stated goal was often to get big fast. The exit strategy usually included an IPO and a large payout for the founders, with the stock market crash around the year 2000 that ended the .com bubble. Many failed and failing .com companies were referred to punningly as .bombs. Many of the surviving firms dropped the .com suffix from their names. So, reasons for failure. So one of the biggest mistakes early .com business made was they were more interested in attracting visitors to their website but not necessarily winning them over the customers. Early .com businesses also failed to take the time to properly researching the situation before starting their business. There are thousands of failed companies from the .com bubble of the late 1990s. Some companies like Cosmo.com failed to adopt full-price strategy that includes only operational costs. The business plan of one .com specified 12 times as many sales as actually occurred in the first 12 months of operation. So, lessons. Failure of most of the .coms was due to lack of business plans and strategic approach to establishment and growth of a business organizations and the goal of earning fast money. So now we shall study a few strategic failure in case of corporate level strategies and functional level strategies. So Sony's strategic failures. So Sony reluctance to compete with products such as Apple's iPod music player, mainly due to resistance from the firm's music and movie division. So, according to Kutaragi, this approach recently addressed by products such as PlayStation Portable, which supports open standards such as MP3 for music and MP4 for video, was driven by concern over piracy from the media division. So in a rare admission of mistakes and an unusually direct criticism of the company's management, Kutaragi said that Sony's innovation had been diluted, but promised that this problem had now been identified, it's just starting. So he told reporters at the club, "We're growing up." Kutaragi is pushing the PlayStation Portable as a combined platform for games, music, and movies. And the forthcoming PlayStation 3 home console is also expected to offer significant media functionality as well as powerful video games platform. So conclusion, strategic failure as companies and lesson learned indicates that corporate governance as well as business ethics play a vital role for preventing failure and help for sustainable growth. So points to remember. So through the management make all possible efforts with utmost care and formulate and implement strategies with utmost seriousness, companies declare bankruptcy that leads to the loss of all capital as well as colossal waste of nations' economic and other resources. Failure to honor corporate governance measure is the major reason for the failure of Enron. Unethical practice of auditors, accountants, management, and credit rating firms together contributed through the failure of Satyam Computer Service Limited. Failure of most of .coms was due to lack of business plans and strategic approach to establishment and growth of a business organization's end goal of earning fast money. So key terms, so strategic failure, corporate governance, audit committees, Enron.coms, Satyam Computers, business ethics, credit rating firms. So thank you for listening.
That's all, guys. I hope you learned something. Thank you and God bless.